Guten Tag, Berlin. Good day, everyone from Belgium. So I'm here and I'm wishing I could give you a positive message. But I am worried. Yes, we should be worried. I think we very much should. Let me explain this. We're all here because Germany is due to close its last remaining nuclear power plants by the end of next year, and 3 of them are going to shut down by the end of this year. That means next month. So should we be worried? We should. Did you know Belgium has a similar plan, but with an even crazier ambition? We're due to close all our nuclear power plants by 2025, whilst they're still all operating today. But the crazy part of this is that it represents half of the generation capacity, it represents half of all the electricity production in Belgium today, and a little over a third of the firm generation capacity. So should we be worried? We should. If I want you to remember one thing out of this day today, a fun fact. Well, it's not that much fun, but take that with you. If you just close the 6 nuclear plants in Germany and the 7 ones in Belgium, it will mechanically represent an increase in CO2 emission than all the flights all across the EU. And this is number for 2019, before COVID, with the UK inside. So to let that sink in, let me rephrase. That means that if we stop flying today in the EU, we will save less greenhouse gas emissions than by just shutting down the 6 nuclear plants in Belgium and in Germany and the 7 in Belgium. So should we be worried? We should. Why is this important? So let me go back to the Belgian plan now. In Belgium, the current government, led by the Belgian Greens, are trying to introduce a tax to discourage people from flying short-distance flights because of greenhouse gas emissions that it emits. So this tax would be for flights under 1,000 kilometers. This is not only an anecdotic measure, it will probably not even reduce anything or any flights, if maybe a little bit. But just by closing the plants, they will, by an order of magnitude more, increase the greenhouse gas emissions. The same government. And this is just in the name of a law that was passed in 2003 that is called the Nuclear Phase-Out Law. It is not called the Energy Transition Law like it is in Germany. It is just the nuclear phase-out. There was no plan how to fix this. And the Greens keep saying, well, the old governments between 2003 and today have done nothing to do a transition. But in the law, there was no transition. It was just nuclear phase-out. So should we be worried? I think we should. In Germany, they plan to phase out the world's most productive nuclear power plants. Germans are famous for their German efficiencies. The 8 gigawatts that represent the last 6 power plants today have one of the highest load factors of any nuclear plants in the world. And with this current plan, what you're doing is taking offline one of the most productive power plants and greenhouse gas and pollution emission-free generation capacity. To put this into context, yesterday I read a report from the IEEE that says Germany had an installed capacity increase from 2000 to 2019, going from 121 gigawatts of installed capacity to 218 gigawatts. That's an 80% increase in installed capacity, mainly because of wind farms and solar panels they've installed all over Germany, and yet they've only produced 5% more electricity. So electricity in Germany just became less efficient, just for the energy vendor. So should we be worried? We should. Unemployment. Yet last week I heard a podcast where a German government representative was talking about the energy vendor and about the nuclear and coal phase-out that they have planned today in Germany. And he was saying a lot how they were worried about employment in the coal regions and how they should have transitions for all these workers in the coal regions. Never have they made this about the nuclear employment that the nuclear industry employs. And yet these represent one of the most highly paid and high-level jobs. You need more engineers to run a nuclear power plant than you need to run a coal plant. So should we be worried? We should. So with this phase out in Germany and Belgium, you have to understand one thing. We are taking offline, or pulling from the grids, as some people like to call it. And let me recap this. In France, in 2020, they took off 2 gigawatts from Fessenheim. So this is just next to the German and Luxembourg border. It's all in the same kind of region. 2 gigawatts were pulled from the grid. At the end of this year, in 2021, Germany will pull 4 gigawatts from the grid. And now listen to this, because it carries on. In October 2022, Belgium is taking 1 extra gigawatt from the grid. In February 2023, Belgium is taking another gigawatt from the grid. In 2020, at the end of 2022, Germany is also going to phase out the 4 remaining gigawatts. And then in 2025, Belgium is going to phase out all of its remaining 4 gigawatts of capacity. This is 12 gigawatts that are being pulled from the grid in less than 3 years with no new generation firm capacity to replace this. So should we be worried? We should. And now I want to share with you, before trying to conclude, a little vision from the future. I know I don't have a glass ball, but just imagine this. In February 2023, on a cold, windless winter evening, and that is just a little over a year's time from now, it's 5 p.m., people start to cook. France needs all of its electricity to heat French homes, because they're mostly heated by electricity today, and people are starting to cook all over Europe. The French don't have spare capacity because the dams are empty, because we had a hot summer with not much rain. There's not much spare hydro capacity in France and actually all over Europe. I don't have a crystal ball, but it might be, and I might just be overthinking this, but just maybe there won't be enough energy for everyone to keep the lights, the heating and the cooking on at 5 o'clock in a cold winter night of February 2023. What happens next? Well, Europe has a plan. Every country has a plan. They do load shedding, they do rolling blackouts, turn off villages, or in Germany, sometimes heavy industry. But this is where people will start to feel what it is to lack firm power when we don't have enough energy. So should we be worried? Well, hold on. I'm going to tell you that there is a bit of hope. We're all here because we think it can change. We can turn the tides. An event like this was unthinkable in Germany 3-4 years ago. And I see it in discussions with my friends or inside political parties, on Facebook, on Twitter. More and more people are not only just changing their minds, but they're also saying that they're not against nuclear. And that means that every day we are winning advocates for nuclear power, that it's good and necessary for our well-being and for our prosperity. So should we be worried? I think we should, but I also see a brighter future ahead. Even if the German phases out nuclear by the end of next year, Germany will become the example of the world on how not to do it. Maybe we can hope for some rolling blackouts, not too much, but some rolling blackout to just show to people what this really means. And then we can think that we need a revival of nuclear industry in Europe, because it is only in Europe the problem. A little bit in America, but mostly in Europe. China is building 150 new reactors in the next 10 years. In India, they're building new reactors. In Africa, they want nuclear power. All over the world, they're going to increase their amount of nuclear power. Only in Europe are we maybe considering, just because we have to please some of our neighbor country. Well, we shouldn't. But let this sink in. And let's hope for a brighter future. And keep advocating for nuclear power. You are the ambassadors from the population to say, we want more nuclear because we want a clean energy and available all the time. Thank you very much.